Top of the morning to you. A while back in another video I promised I would show you how to make a standby switch for a soldering iron. Okay. And that's a basic little drawing of it. This is just an extension cord. And you'll need an extension cord with just the end. I'll show you all this stuff when I back out. This is just a basic light switch, just a 2-pole light switch. This is a diode, and this is a actual AC outlet. All this stuff I've got here, yeah, all of it, is scrap stuff I had laying around. A friend brought by a box of junk the other day. It had a bunch of electrical parts in it. And it had a couple things I can use to finish this. You can go and buy all this stuff new. My suggestion is you tough it out, do some digging, use your brain, and you can probably find all this stuff. The only thing that isn't off the shelf right off the bat is this diode. You can use any diode that's greater than a couple hundred volts forward, or peak inverse, excuse me. And this one is rated at 6 amps. You could use a 3 amp one, but a smaller one will limit how big of a soldering iron you can use. A 3 amp one would be fine, probably up to, I don't know, 100 watt soldering iron, which is a pretty good sized soldering iron. My suggestion is that you tough it out and find a bigger one. This is a 6 amp one. This is probably the biggest you can find with 2 leads on it, and even this one is a scrap one. Just to make sure, I'm just going to test it real quick. If you've never seen a diode get tested, this meter is a Fluke 87. It measures the forward and reverse conductivity of the diode. And the voltage drop, there's the forward. There's the reverse. Okay, so our diode is good. Everything else here is just scrap stuff. I'm going to put this in a little workbox that looks like hell. Its sides dented in. I was going to look in the box of junk to see if I found something better, but yeah, I don't know. This is just a 2-pole light switch, just on-off light switch, and I got a. You need an electrical socket, and I'm going to use this plate to mount this stuff. Now, there's nothing to stop you from putting this all in a single workbox, single gang workbox, and running a line cord in one side and then the female part out the other side, and then you would have a little flexible end. That would work too, but this is just how I'm going to do it. Okay, first thing you're going to want to do is I'm going to mount this cord, which I don't know, it looks like hell, but it was free, and I'm not going to be too fussy. And besides, a little bit of the work is already done. Somebody's taken the time to strip those ends back. If you're unfamiliar with electrical work, let me say one thing about all this. If you're unfamiliar with this and unsure of it, don't do it. That's all there is to it. There are plenty of people you probably know that you don't know that do electrical work. It's not terribly tough, but there's an element of danger here, and you could get hurt. And granted, you probably could get hurt off a 9-volt battery. So what somebody's done here is put a strain relief. One of the other things you might need is a screwdriver. I kind of like these ones that have multiple tips on them. To be really blunt, that one came from Sears. I'm going to just loosen it up a little bit so I can work with it here and shove it through. Somebody is putting some rather hefty-duty heat shrink on the end of that baby. And, I wouldn't probably do this, but we'll just make do with what we got here. I'm going to thread all this through the corner of the workbox. And where you get too far away, make sure you get the nut on there that tightens this all up. And, you know, I'm going to look at this a little careful here. Let's see, if I did that, and did that, yep, this will work fine. It's just doing some mental measuring there. A lot of these locking rings have a lock side and a side that's smooth, so take a good look at it. And make sure it goes on with the locking side toward the metal box. And get it threaded through there. And go ahead and get it all tightened up. This would be a good place for a punch or a chisel. We have a punch. You want to go ahead and hit one of those ears and make sure this is tightened up. It would help if I had a hammer. There's a hammer. And I'm just going to use this punch to make sure that that's locked in place. On electrical connections, any type of electrical connections, you want to make sure that they're good and tight. I'm just going to fold this out of the way. This box is really in bad shape, but we're going to use it anyway. Okie dokie. So, next thing we're going to do is kind of strip this wiring off of this outlet. And you know, I had a better outlet out there somewhere. Actually, let me shut you off for a minute here and find it. Okie dokie. I got a hold of this outlet as opposed to this one. If you look inside these, either in the back or somewhere, sometimes in here, there is usually a listing of how much current those outlets can handle. Normally, they can handle 15 amps. That's the standard janky one you get at the home center. Well, we're missing a couple things here. If that'll work. Probably won't. Nope. Yeah, I'm missing a couple screws here. Actually, that screw might work. Yeah. Okay, okay. Well, we'll do the best we can. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install this switch, and you want to hook up one side. Now on this electrical cord fitting, these wires are stranded, and you're going to want to potentially put some little eyes on there. And of course that's too short. Okay. Let me stop again. There's a lot of stopping and starting on this video. And let me lengthen these wires out. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So what I've done is I just extended the wires on this diode. In this application, it doesn't matter which way you are going to put it. If you just have to have a way, I would point the arrow toward the load. What I'm going to do is bend a nice little curl on there. This wire I added on there was enamel covered, so I had to strip it back a little bit. Anyway, I'm just going to add that there, and we're going to put the hot side, or the black side, right there. Well, that was the idea anyway. There we go. If you buy a new diode, the leads will probably be long enough. Okay. Let's try again. What somebody's done is they made a lug out of that yellow. Man, this thing is just not cooperating. There we go. Okay. Somebody's made a spade lug out of a ring lug. That what they did was they cut the top off, so it's kind of janky. Okay, we'll hook that under there, so it looks like that. And all that happens is when you turn the switch on, it bypasses this diode. When it's off, the current goes through the diode and turns it into half wave. Okay, we need another little piece of wire here. We'll just harvest some stuff out of here. Solid wire is kind of a bear to work with, so be careful when you're working with it. You can poke your hand out. Okay. We'll just kind of hammer this back into shape. Okay. Put a little hook on there. Okay. And maybe a little more of a bend. And we'll attach this to here. And we'll go ahead and tighten that baby up. Yeah, that's not working. That's trying to squeeze out from underneath there. Let's tighten it up a little more. Never cared much for these types of electrical connections. It's the way the world works. There we go. Okay. Okie dokie. And so you'll make sure your diode doesn't touch anything. You could insulate it if you wanted to. And kind of do a little body work on this ground wire here. You don't have to have it this way. You could just directly connect it. And let's see, that'll go in there. So we'll cut that off about there. And we'll put a little bend in it. And that's okay. Those of you who do this for a living are having a good laugh, and that's okay. One of the things that may help you is when you tighten the screw, you want to turn it against the wire so it doesn't work its way out from underneath there. Okay. So that's what we got so far. And on electrical switches, there is a hot side and a ground or neutral side. The neutral side is always silver or white, which we're gonna tighten that one up, and we'll loosen this one up. And we'll put that under there, like that. This is the neutral side. And we'll go ahead and tighten that up. Like I said, the electrical cord on this one is stranded. Okay. And so on this side, we'll go ahead and we'll put these are all loose. Make sure these are tight. And pretty janky. That one's in a little sketchy shape. I don't know if I can get that back in there or not. There we go. Okay. Well, I thought I could get it back in there. That thing doesn't look in very good shape. That may have been why that one was tight and the other one was loose. That's what you get for using a old, that is just, I don't know, this isn't going to cut it. Let me stop you here. Okay, after a little wrestling around, I got that screw to go back in there. Let's see here. We'll bend this around a little bit, make sure nothing's touching. You may want to fold your diode out of the way a little bit. Okay. Those screws can come out. They're left over. Okie dokie. And in this application, you'll have to break these ears off. Just get some nice pliers and work them back and forth a little bit. They'll snap off. Try and resist the urge to buy the... If you're going to go out and buy this stuff, don't buy the first cheap electrical socket and switch you see. You may want to spend a little bit of money. And those are going to have to get broke off too. Guess I should have used the crummy ones first. I bet those extra ears got to get broke off too. Yeah. Man, that's just a bear. Okay. That is just being a bear. I suppose I really need 2 pairs of pliers. Maybe I can use the cutters on this thing to nick that and get it to break. There it goes. What a bear. Okay. So anyway, we'll shoot that back in there. And these screws, yep, these screws will work for the switch side. They're a little long, but they won't hurt anything. Anyway, you go ahead and mount this all back together. Hands just aren't working today. There we go. Excuse me. Okay. Sure you get a screwdriver that fits well. That'll make your life a little less miserable. Okay. We'll tighten that one up if I can get it to fit. There we go. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I want this socket back in here. I'm gonna use these machine screws to mount it. That's probably not the recommended thing to do, but it will work. It won't hurt anything. Oh, but we give a damn and center that up a little bit. There we go. It's snapped in there. Anyway, you get the general idea. We'll just keep tightening things up and putting them together. I need some screws for the outside of this, which I actually don't have right this second. Out of all that junk in the box, there isn't any. It's probably have a wonderful shot of my elbow. That's okay. Okay. Yeah, these screws might work. They might be long enough. This box is a little Okay. Okie dokie. Yep. That one needs to be tightened. So you're ready to go here. And if you've done everything right, you can go ahead and plug this in. I would check everything real careful. If you're really worried about this, one of the things you can do, again, like I said, if you're unfamiliar with the electrical work, you may want to get a friend to help you. But one of the things you can do if you're just freaking out about this is plug this in at the end of a really long extension cord, put the extension cord in the box at the end of the driveway, and then plug it in. It's going to blow up. It'll blow up out at the end of the driveway where you're not, because you're back at the inside plugging the socket in. It's all rubble. Okie dokie. So we got our soldering gun here. This works on a soldering iron or soldering gun. This is actually intended for a soldering iron, but that's okay. Anyway, you can see that or not. You can barely see that glowing. When the switch is in the off position, it lets the current go through the diode, and that cuts the voltage in half. It turns the AC into unregulated DC, and so it kind of reduces it. Tell you what, I'll stop you here, and I'll go get a current meter and show you how much current we lose. Hang on. Well, I couldn't find my breakout box for my current meter, so this will work just as well. You can see here that I just stuck a light in there, and this is in the standby position of lower current, or excuse me, lower voltage, and there is the high side. So depending on what kind of soldering iron you got, you potentially could use that to reduce the output enough that you could solder with it. There we go. Or it would juice the thing here. Or you can kick it into high gear, and then you could solder with it normally. This really only works on devices with heating elements. So if you have a kind of resistive or nichrome heating element, this would work. A heat gun, well, maybe not. Heat gun has a motor in it that may not do it too much good. But any soldering iron would be just fine. Like I said, if you got a big one, a soldering iron that is. That didn't come out right, did it? If you have a large soldering iron, make sure that that diode is pretty heavy duty. This one here is 150 watt, and I've been letting it sit there in the idle and in the standby position. And a little tip here, I'm not going to take direct credit for this, is you could get, you could get a night light that plugs into the wall socket, or a socket that plugs directly in there, and you can screw an incandescent bulb in. A friend of mine, I built one of these for him, and he did that. He could never remember which way the switch was, but he could remember which way it was when there was a light in there, and I think he stuck a little Christmas tree light bulb in there, and it helped him quite a bit. He said, I kind of thought about doing that, but I didn't say anything to him, so technically it's his idea. So I'll give credit where credit's due. And you can see the soldering iron is starting to heat up a little bit. So a little dab of solder in this tube is getting kind of annoying. I suppose. I wonder what I did with that. I did have a... Okay, well, let me look one more place. I had a temperature gun out here a while ago I was using, and apparently I put it away or lost it. You have your choice. Anyway, you can see that there's going to be a difference. Those old soldering irons take a while to heat up. That's all there is to it. Well, while we're waiting for that to heat up, let me show you exactly what happens here. If I have a pencil, I don't have a pencil. Oh, it's been a long day. Basically what you're doing is normal AC, if you look at it with an oscilloscope, this is 0 volts, and the alternating current does this, and it repeats over and over and over again. This from here to here, excuse me, from here to here, that's one cycle. When you put the diode in there, what a diode is a one-way valve, and so it blocks one half of the voltage, so you get voltage that looks like this. This is how they convert AC and DC, and then they filter this. So you've kind of chopped the duty cycle in half, and the soldering irons really don't care. It's a heck of a breeze today, and it is really screwing over my soldering iron. Yeah, it's starting to melt a little bit. So there you go. It's kind of a little quick, dirty home project. Feel free to kind of modify that or change it at your whim. Like I said, be careful. Don't do anything stupid. There's nothing to stop you. That workbox is pretty big. There's nothing to stop you from putting a fuse in there. You could put a little, fuse in there if you're really worried about it. Yeah, there's the solder mount, so let's switch it into standby. Wish I had that. I'm going to leave you stand here for about 10 minutes, or 10 minutes. Yeah, you're going to stay 10 minutes while I let Jack around. Let me go look at something real quick, and I'll be back. Well, that wasn't too horrible, was it? Write your congressman if it was. Okay, so here, this is in the low position, and this is a temperature gun. It uses infrared. If you don't have one of these, you can get a cheap one of these for about $30. They're really handy. See that or not. Anyway, you can see that in the low position the soldering iron is about 460 degrees. Maybe you can't. Yeah. We'll kick it into high gear. You could use this as a very cheap light dimmer too. We'll wait. What did I say? It was 460. Yeah, here you can see that the soldering iron is starting to heat up. So it's went up, what about 50 degrees already? And there, you can make other variations of this. I've got one I made for a friend. He's kind of got a little bit of a handicap, and he has limited use of his hands, and the switch, the toggle switch, isn't really an option for him. But he can use the soldering gun and the pencil okay. So what I did for him, instead of a switch here, I ran another cord and replace that switch with a foot switch, and he has use of his feet, and he can click the thing on and off to his heart's content. Yeah, you can see the thing is really starting to get hot there now. There's 4 or 520. There's 570. This thing is very directional, which is a good thing. There we go. And we throw it back into low gear. What's nice about that is if you're using it kind of on and off, you can put it in the low mode and it'll keep the soldering iron warm but not screaming hot, and it makes it a lot easier on the tips. Yeah, the breeze is just sucking the heck out of the soldering iron today. So there you go. Like I said, if you have a question or comment, feel free to leave them. If you'd like to subscribe, there's probably a handy dandy little button or clickable button on the video that was probably annoying people. You could use that. Where are we at now? He said this thing is very directional. Claims it's going up. That's funny. I know for a fact it isn't. Okay. Anyway, have a groovy day. Take it easy.